Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Krishna 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 Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram. Sit properly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Oh, Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Om Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Sit properly. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, 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 Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna Krishna, Ram Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Krishna Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram. Sit properly. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama,
Lokanatha Lokerajivana Lokanath Lokerajivana Mahaprabhu Purajoy Hamuri Parajaya Mahaprabhu Purajoy Hamuri Parajaya Bebe Yasu Sukri Bhuvana Bebe Yasu Sukri Bhuvana Shila Prabhupada Lokila Jivana Shila Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Satchidananda, Jaya Satchidananda. Jaya Satchidananda, Jaya Satchidananda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govardhana, Radha Govardhana, Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govardhana, Shri Radha Govardhana, Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govardhana, Radha Govardhana, Sri Radhe. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Nitya Gora Hari Bolo, Hari Bolo, Hari Bolo, Nitya Gora Hari Bolo. Nitya Gora Hari Bolo, Hari Bolo, Hari Bolo, Nitya Gora Hari Bolo.
Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivraj Acharya Asto Tarasata Sri Srimad Jai Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Govardhana. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita. This is Adi Lila, chapter 17, and we have 2 verses today, which is text 72 and 73. Bhaktagane Prabhu Nama Mahima Kahila. Shuniya Paduya Tahan Artavada Kaila. Bhaktagane Prabhu Nama Mahima Kahila. Shuniya Paduya Tahan Artavada Kaila. Someone else? Bhaktagane, unto the devotees, Prabhu, the Lord, Nama Mahima, of the holy name, Kahila, explained, Shuniya, hearing, Paduya, the students, Tahan, there, Artavada, interpretation, Kaila, did. Translation? Once the Lord explained the glories of the holy name to the devotees, but some ordinary students who heard him fashioned their own interpretation. Text 73. Name stuti vadashuni prabhura haila duke sabare nishedhila ihara na dekiya mukha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When a student interpreted the glories of the holy name as a prayer of exaggeration, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, greatly unhappy, immediately warned everyone not to see the student's face henceforward. Purport. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu explained the glories of the transcendental potency of the Lord's holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one unfortunate student said that such glorification of the holy name was an exaggeration in the Shastras to induce people to take to it. In this way, the student interpreted the glories of the holy name. This is called Artha Vada, and it is one of the 10 offences at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. There are many kinds of offences, but the offence known as Nam Aparad, an offence at the lotus feet of the holy name, is extremely dangerous. The Lord therefore warned everyone not to see the face of the offender. He immediately took a bath in the Ganges with all his clothes to teach everyone to avoid such Nam Aparad. The holy name is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the person God and his holy name. This is the absolute position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one who distinguishes between the Lord and his name is called a pasandi, or non-believer, an atheistic demon. Glorification of the holy name is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should never attempt to distinguish between the Lord and his name or interpret the glories of the holy name as mere exaggeration. Perhaps we can repeat this responsively. Once the Lord explained the glories of the holy name to the devotees, but some ordinary students who heard him fashioned their own interpretation. When a student interpreted the glories of the holy name as a prayer of exaggeration, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, greatly unhappy, warned everyone not to see the student's face henceforward. Amagyanatimindasya gananjana shalakaya chakshu unminitam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhaite gurim yat pripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinatanam. Vande Sri Krishna Caitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gaudadaya Pushpapanto Chitro Sando Tamo Nido. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. They are just like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Bangladesh, West Bengal, to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So welcome everyone, especially to our many guests here this morning. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. So 2 mornings a week, Saturday and Sunday, we attempt to discuss this wonderful medieval Vaishnava literature, Sri Caitanya Caritamrita. Perhaps some of you are familiar with this. Very wonderful. So we're going to begin by reciting one very famous verse, shloka in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Puna Shudho Nitya Mukta Binatwam Nama Namino. Beautiful Sanskrit words, very elegant, which our founder Srila Prabhupada admitted there are in many instances not fit comparisons in the English language, but he did his best. So I'm not going to attempt, though we may pick up some words in this verse, but there's a beautiful translation. I'm going to read it this morning. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of it ever being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. And that's originally found in the Padma Purana. And Rupa Goswami and our other Goswamis, they often quote this verse, a very significant verse in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So there is another wonderful pastime, many wonderful pastimes, and which we'll eventually read in this Caitanya Caritamrita. And this is the offense of Gopal Chakravarti. Chakravarti, like the word Maharaj, sometimes can mean emperor. And there are emperors in the Brahmin community, just as Maharaj can mean great king. Similarly, Chakravarti can also mean a very, very learned person. It's a Brahmin title, primarily. And there was one during the time of Mahaprabhu. There was the father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, Hiranya and Govardhana Majumdar. And they were fabulously wealthy. And the only son in the family was Raghunath Das. And on one occasion, Namacharya Haridas Thakur was residing in that particular part of Bengal. And Hiranya and Govardhana Majumdar, they were of the habit of regularly inviting learned persons to discuss various shastras from different angles of vision. And they did this on this particular occasion, and they invited Namacharya Haridas Thakur to also speak, which he did. And Haridas Thakur said something which was very profound. And we've brought along another. We were doing some research yesterday. This is a wonderful book by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is an old photocopy. I'm sure it's in electronic version nowadays and hard copy. Harinam Chintamani. And it's a wonderful book on the offences, the 10 offences, which one should try to avoid in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So on this particular occasion, Namacharya Haridas Thakur explained that just by the second of the three, the first is Namaparad. When one starts to chant, one's chanting undoubtedly, after many lifetimes of conditional life, will be offensive. The second stage is called Namabas, or the clearing stage. And the third stage is known as Shuddhanam, pure chanting. So Haridas Thakur, in this assembly of learned persons, stated that just even one reaches the stage of Namabas, the clearing stage, that is sufficient in itself for the jiva to achieve liberation, moksha, emancipation from the cycle of birth and death. And this really annoyed this particular personality who was present. He became quite upset. He was quite a learned fellow, Gopal Chakravarti, but he was a Jnani and didn't have any faith whatsoever in the holy name of Krishna. He was actually, even though he was born in a Brahmin family, he was a tax collector for the local Mohammedan government, and he was quite a handsome man. But he objected vociferously to this statement of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur gave a wonderful example, which before I came to the temple this morning, I got up early and was chanting and watching as nighttime gradually segued to daytime. And Haridas gave this example that even before the sun rises, the earliest glimmer of some sun rays, it dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. Ghosts flee in fear. Thieves go back to their hiding places. And in this way, one looks forward to the day ahead. But the sun hasn't yet fully risen. So this was his example. And Gopal Chakravarti, he became very upset, very annoyed. He said, Jnanis who perform severe austerities for many, many lifetimes and study the Shastras deeply, lead very austere lives, it's not such an easy thing to get moksha or liberation. And he became even more offensive to the point where he said, if what you say is not correct, Haridas, that you can't get liberation just by a dim glimmer of chanting of the holy names, then you should cut off your own nose. And Haridas Thakur said, yes, I'll certainly do that, but what I say is correct. It's well-established fact. And more than that, he said to Gopal Chakravarti that liberation, moksha, is just a byproduct of pure devotional service. It's an insignificant byproduct, he went so far. And this is corroborated by Bilvamangala Thakur, who, even though he was blind, had the revelation that, and he wrote about it in his Krishna Caritamrita, that since I've been relishing the chanting of Krishna's names and remembering the Lord's wonderful pastimes, I'm experiencing that Mukti Devi herself, the personification of liberation. She is standing at my door with folded palms wanting to serve me. And behind her are the other goddesses of the four aspirations of almost everyone: dharma, artha, and karma. Religiosity, wealth, and as a result, sense gratification. So, unfortunately for the Pandit, a few days later, his nose melted away due to leprosy. Very unfortunate. And Haridas Thakur was very upset about that. He wished it hadn't happened, and he held himself responsible. But this is, of course, and very instructive, and it's said that all the devotees present at the time, they became quite fearful, and their chanting of Krishna's names intensified, and they became more serious to avoid such offences. So, exaggeration, some non-believers will level that everything can be achieved wonderfully by chanting Krishna's names. But this is the version of the Shastras, and of course we accept that. And there are many wonderful stories. Of course, we know that Srila Prabhupada, even from early days, began asking his own disciples, especially leading disciples, to give public talks in his presence. Because he knew his time in this realm was limited, and he was hopeful that his disciples would carry on this important mission after Krishna took him back to the spiritual world. So to that end, Prabhupada would often ask, and he would listen very attentively. And on one occasion, a disciple was speaking, and he mentioned that Krishna is in his holy name. Sounds plausible, yes? That's okay, right? Krishna is in his holy name. Prabhupada interjected and said, no, Krishna is his holy name. Technical point, but for clarification, as Prabhupada said, he wanted his books edited for force and clarity, because he spoke with great force and clarity. And that is the nature of sadhus. Sometimes they have to speak very forcefully, just as when we're asleep, sometimes some loud sound, at least we have to be sometimes even shaken to be woken up. So this is the business of sadhus, to wake us up from our dreamlike state. And it is interesting. There are many, of course, wonderful pastimes throughout. The most famous, of course, is probably Ajamil, who was a Brahmin long ago, and had been very well trained by his father in the Brahminical life, but as chance would have it, he fell down from his Brahminical practices and became very degraded. But he, at the end of his life, his youngest son, he'd had the good fortune to call him Narayan, name of Krishna. And whilst leaving his body, he called out to his son, Narayan. And as a result of that, the Vishnu Dutas came from the spiritual sky, and but simultaneously the Yamadutas, the servants of Lord Yamaraj, also came. So there was a big discussion and argument between the two. The Yamadutas were saying, we thought our Lord Yamaraj was supreme, and the Vishnu Dutas were saying, no, actually Yamaraj is a Mahajan, but he is the servant of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. So ultimately, though, just by that one instance of chanting Krishna's name at the end of his life, even though the rest of his life had been very degraded, Ajamil was saved, and ultimately he went and performed some more austerities and devotional practices, and eventually went back to the spiritual world. So that example is there in the 6th canto, I think. And one may also, and also we have a couple of famous references where the Mahamantra is actually found. And the foremost is in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. And there you find the Hare Krishna Mahamantra along with Iti Sodashakam Nam Nam Kali Kalmashanasanam Nata Paratavarupaya Sava Vedishu Drishchite. that if one searches through all the Vedic literatures, one will not find a method of self-realization or God-realization more efficacious in this age of Kali than the chanting of these 16 syllables. And we can chant them all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the Mahamantra is also mentioned in one of the Puranas as well. So, that is, of course, Vedic evidence. There's an interesting history. History may have been, for some of us, one of the only couple of subjects at school that any of us really took much interest in. And the history of Vaishnavism is very fascinating once we take to this Vaishnava spiritual path. And that is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur performing, finishing a vow he took to chant 1 billion times the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as a relatively young man, perhaps in his late teens, early 20s. He went and sat down in Mayapur. He found one abandoned hut, I think in some rice paddies, negotiated with the farmer. He said, "You can stay here." The roof leaked whenever it was raining, so he just put up an umbrella, and for 9 years, more than 9 years, he just chanted and completed his vrata, his vow. He wrote a 1.5-page poem, which is very famous in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Begins with, the first stanza is Dushtamana, Tumi Kishera Vaishnava, Pratistara Tari, Nijanera Gari, Tava Harinam Kaivala Kaitako. He says, "My dear mind, what kind of a Vaishnava are you? Simply for some false prestige and a material reputation, you are sitting in a lonely place chanting Hare Krishna. Surely this is all cheating." Now, this is where it gets interesting, because he himself sat in a lonely place for 9 years and just chanted Hare Krishna. So is there some contradiction here? No, not at all, because what did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur do immediately after that? He went to Calcutta and he preached, and very vigorously for the rest of his life. And he performed that austerity to prepare himself. Just as we know Srila Prabhupada lived alone in Vrindavan for approximately 11 years, preparing himself before he came to the West to start his mission. So, and towards the end of his life, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew he was leaving this realm, and many of his disciples could see that he was also ailing. And in the last days and weeks of his life, they would come to see him one last time and would ask him, "How are you feeling?" And he would say, "I'm feeling fine. My only discomfort is that my doctors won't let me speak Harikatha." So that is there. Now, we read of so many wonderful personalities in this Caitanya Caritamrita, and who they are has been identified by Kavi Kanapur, Gora Ganadesh Deepika. Deepika means to shine a light on. So, and in his Mangala Charanam to the book, Kavi Kanapur admits that how is it that he's deciding who's who amongst Mahaprabhu's associates who have descended with the Lord from Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha planets, heavenly planets, or wherever, And he admits that he's using scriptural evidence, the opinions of others, and his own intuition to ascertain who is who. And of course we know that there are different pramanas. Pramana means proof or evidence. I was discussing a point of philosophy with a very learned devotee here some years back. And I mentioned something and he said, "What is your pramana for that?" And I had the pramana because I had just read it the day before in Srila Sanatana Goswami's wonderful commentary on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So I gave it to him and he said, "Well, I'm not going to argue with Srila Sanatana Goswami, and one would be wise not to. He is our Sambandha Acharya, Sambandha Abhidaya and Prayojana." So Sambandha Madan Mohan, his worshipable deity. Sambandha means relationship, rekindling our relationship, forgotten relationship with Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So the foremost proof or evidence, pramana, is Shabda Pramana, or spiritual knowledge which is eternal. There are three eternals: the Supreme Lord, the Jivas, and the Vedic literatures. They are described as Apurushaya, which Purusha means human, person. Apurushaya means not of human origin. So the Vedas, even though we can say, yes, they've come from Krishna, but just as Krishna and the Jivas, we are all eternal. So similarly, Vedic knowledge is always there. So that is described as the foremost of all evidences or proofs. But there are others, and Prabhupada mentions them, and they are described in different Bhagavatam, especially Manu Samhita, just to name a few, and other literature. So I just thought it might be interesting. I'll just mention some of them here. Different kinds of evidence by which reality may be known: revelation, perception, history, hearsay, and inference. But Vedic evidence, perception, and inference. If one wants to understand what is reality, one must consider the three kinds of evidence. Since hearsay is included in perception, Madhvacharya has said that the means of proper knowledge are three, among which Shruti or revelation is the highest. So, and that of course means knowledge coming down from higher authorities. And this gives a good background to that. If one carefully examines 10 kinds of evidence, they're all listed here, one will find that all of them are contaminated. These are material evidences with the 4 kinds of defects in material life: cheating, imperfect senses, illusion, and mistakes. Therefore, of all of these, revelation, Shruti, is considered to be superior, for it is above the 4 defects. Shruti is therefore the root of all evidence. That's from Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha. So, on the Bhakti Marg, or path of devotion, we accept knowledge which is coming down from higher authorities. If you want to know who your father is, the best person to ask is your mother. She can point out that fellow over there, he's your dad. So in the same way, rather than endless empiric speculation, it's a lot quicker, it's more speedy to accept knowledge coming down from higher authorities, which is very much the program of the Vaishnavas. So, I might finish. Rupa Raghunath's here. Fantastic. I've got a couple of Sankirtan stories here, Rupa Raghunath. Maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, but I just thought. And we have I noticed no sets have been sold yet, but we have, for any of our guests who may not have a set of Srimad Bhagavatams in your home, you can purchase at a very good price. Keep that in mind this morning, okay? Rupa Raghunath's here, be only too happy to show you how to do that, all right? And you can have the whole set of Srimad Bhagavatams in your home to relish. There's much we could say about that. But stay here, or if you don't have Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita in your home, you might like to take a copy of that with you this morning. Other smaller books are there as well. Just to give a little plug there, Rupa Raghunath Ji. But yes, we can remember some fun Sankirtan stories from the 1970s. Rupa, I can remember meeting a young man on the street, and he wasn't interested in taking one of Srila Prabhupada's books because he told me he already had a guru. I said, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And he told me his guru was an avatar. And I said, oh, what type of avatar is he? And this man he said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, there are different types of avatars. Shakyavesha avatar, Manvantara avatar, Guna avatar, Leela avatar, and so on. And he said, well, I don't know what all those names mean. And I said, well, who is he an avatar of? And also he says he didn't know that. So I was just trying to help him because it wasn't often back in those days that we met folks on the street who already were inclined to Indian spirituality. And like many of us, we came to bhakti through some other discipline, some other yoga society, some other yoga practices, and we eventually came to the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet and the bhakti. So I wasn't trying to be clever with this fellow, but in the end I said, well, these are all different details of yoga science, and they're all contained in this book. And the books we were distributing in those days were teachings of Lord Caitanya. And I gave him a copy, and he gave a donation, and he went off. So that was very nice. Actually, Teachings of Lord Caitanya was one of the first big books that Srila Prabhupada managed to get printed in 1967 with the kind donations of some of his early disciples, the two brothers, Brahmananda and Gargamuni Prabhus, Roy Ramananda. They all chipped in $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 each, and Prabhupada managed to get that book printed for the first time. And it made many, many of us into devotees. Teachings of Lord Caitanya. And Prabhupada would even abbreviate the name himself, would refer to it as the TLC. He was fond of doing that. So a wonderful book describing many, many conversations that Mahaprabhu had with his leading devotees in different parts of India 500 years ago. And around the same time, in the mid to late 70s, a godbrother of mine who used to distribute books in Chicago told me this story. And one young lady, he stopped one young lady. She'd just flown back to Chicago from Los Angeles. And at that time, there were many persons coming from India teaching some version of Vedic spirituality or another. And there was one, we don't need to name names, but some of us old-timers will know who we're referring to here. He was one boy guru, young man, had come and set up set himself up in Los Angeles, and some people were attracted to him, and he was even performing a type of initiation, not like our Vaishnava initiation, but some type of initiation, even giving spiritual names. So this devotee told me how he stopped this young lady, and she was in ecstasy. She was so happy. She'd just come back from Los Angeles and had been initiated, and she'd received the name Mohini Murti. So this godbrother just happened to have, hot off the press, the 8th canto. It's actually in the 8th canto, chapter 12, is the whole story of Mohini Murti, incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he asked her, what's your name? She said, Mohini Murti. He said, great, here's a book all about you. So she bought the book and she went off swimming in ecstasy. They were known as premies. She was, so I always thought that's Krishna's arrangement. Hopefully she eventually became a devotee of Mohini Murti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, after reading that book. So I might stop here, everyone. Thank you for your kind attention. Any questions, comments, or do we have a microphone? There's Bhakta mic here. We can hang on.
Thank you for the class, Alalanatha. I'm just stumped on one story that we've been talking about it for the past maybe couple of weeks now, where one of the people in the pastimes of Lord Caitanya gets leprosy because he was not a devotee or he was preaching something else, and so Lord Caitanya cursed him with leprosy for many lifetimes. And you mentioned before how some of the Vaishnavas were scared and afraid, so they chanted more and turned more towards Krishna. But something about that, just for me personally, isn't landing. I feel stumped about it. Why is it like a fear-based thing that you turn to Krishna? I thought here with the Vaishnavas, it's not like that. He's not like this scary lording over us kind of God. Can you please elaborate?
Thank you. Great question. I'm just trying to think. I'm not recalling Krishna Kirtans.
Yes.
Yes, Srivastava Kaur. I'm just on the detail. I'm struggling to recall where Mahaprabhu cursed anybody to have leprosy birth after birth. I'm not picking up. I'm not remembering that one. But yes, definitely Mahaprabhu in his incarnation could be very severe. To set an example. But that said, that actually, no, Vaishnavism absolutely is not fear-based. It's love-based, 100%. But sometimes there are examples, and it's given, what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that even gurus sometimes can be very severe, harsh like a thunderbolt, but simultaneously very soft like a rose. No, absolutely, and we just can't emphasize this enough. This is what has brought many of us to the bhakti path, rather than some of us who may have grown up in fear-based religious systems. Yes. And Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta tell an interesting story from the coal miners of North England. There was a Christian minister going about trying to convert the coal miners to Christianity. He wasn't having much luck because he was presenting very much a fear-based ideology that, you know, you fellas, if you don't surrender to Jesus, you're going to hell. And they would say, well, what's hell like? And he would say, oh, it's dark. There's fires down there, or it's very cold and bleak and miserable. And the coal miners looked at one another and said, doesn't sound much different to where we work 8 hours every day. So the good minister had to take a different tack. He would go about, when they were not working, sitting in the tea stalls reading newspapers. And he noticed this, and he said, there's no newspapers in hell. And the miners went, oh, okay. Well, you better tell us something about this Jesus. So, but yes, there are occasions where to be successful in bhakti, one should be strict on oneself, but very merciful towards others. Not the other way around. Not that we're very harsh with the general public, or even with new devotees, just exploring bhakti a little bit. We should be very gentle and magnanimous and merciful and kind-hearted. But with ourselves, we should be a little strict. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Haribol, we've got a couple of other comments or questions. We can pass Bhakta Mike along the... hang for the microphone for the wherever it's going.
51.
Excuse me?
You referred to verse 51.
Okay.
I've got a backstory on this.
All right.
Rather than you looking up 51.
Okay. That's okay. Please.
So,
go
all
ahead.
right. So it was like what happened was that this devotee, this person, he wasn't a devotee, he set up Srinivasa out of envy because he couldn't get into the chanting and he was very upset about it. But then afterwards, after he suffered the consequence of it, there was a consequence that he suffered really bad karma, he got leprosy. And some time later he came to Lord Caitanya and he asked for forgiveness, right? And Lord Caitanya would not forgive him.
Okay.
Right? That's the one, yeah, we nailed
Okay.
it. Yeah, that's the one. So he
Sure.
said, no, you have to suffer for many, many lifetimes. But what it did enhance was enhance the mercy of the devotee. He said, if you actually go to Srinivasa and ask for his forgiveness, he will, then all your suffering will be alleviated. So he was actually, espousing the glories of the forgiveness in the devotee. So Srinivasa immediately forgave him. Is that, am I right? Did I do it?
I'll let Kira. Okay. I'd completely forgotten that, so I'm grateful to both of you for reminding me of that, and thank you very much. And I think there's a teaching moment in there, and that is if, as Mahaprabhu instructed that envious person, you go and beg forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. You've offended him. You can be relieved of the offence, but you have to go and beg his, and he has to forgive you, which a Vaishnava will also do. So thank you, Prabhu. I'd completely forgotten that, the rest of that. Grateful. All right, Haribol, Lucas, you want to...
I was just going to ask, you were speaking about the one with the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas, and I've heard that for the atheists, when they reach death, that's when they have some contact with God. At the time of death, that's where they Vilasad is God. I don't know whether that you've heard that before. Like God comes in the form of death for the atheists.
Yes.
But then the Yamadutas are going to take them at the time of death. So how does that work?
Well, Krishna is, he manifests in absolutely everything. So one of his manifestations is one of the biggest experiences for anyone, and that is changing the body. So you could say Krishna admits death, he is. So he's coming in that form. But then, and for the devotees of the Lord, that's not as traumatic as the non-devotees. And Krishna Kirtan made the point in his class recently, I think you were quoting, was it Jiva Goswami, that death is just like dropping your chudder. You give off the body and you go to the next body. So for devotees it's not as traumatic, but for non-devotees who have unlimited attachments in this world, then it's a very traumatic experience.
So they won't get any realization of God at the time of death. It just that death is Krishna says he is death.
Yeah. He comes and yeah. And depending on one's consciousness at that time, then one is forced to go and either enjoy or suffer and then take another birth. Yeah. All right.
In that regard, Prabhupada would sometimes give the example of the cat. The same cat will be death to the rat in her jaws, and to the kitten,
yes,
who she is favoured to, that is nurture and safety. But it's the same jaws of the cat, the same cat, so the same death experience of Krishna is different for the atheist and the devotee. One is nurtured and protected and carried to safety, the other is devoured.
Helpful, Lucas? Yeah. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai.
That one on there too. Do you want to turn this off?